Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Art of Creation Homestead. My name is Jason. We're in the kitchen right now, and Angela Kate's over here at the stove just cooking up a storm. We're not Greek, but we do like to dabble in a little Greek food once in a while, and she's got a lovely recipe for some pastitsio. Pastitza. I've heard it pronounced a couple different ways. I'm not sure how it's pronounced personally. Pastitsio, because as well I believe it is, what Angela Kate says it is. So I'm gonna go with that. But if in case you pronounce it differently, I'm sorry. But here we're over here at the stove. Angela's gonna get it. She's gonna show you how to get it done. Okay.
In this pan, we have 1.5 pounds of ground beef. I am using 85/15. I know you can only find that in pretty much in grass-fed, but I would go as lean as you can. That way you don't have to get as much grease out of it, because you do need to drain it well. And I got that started sauteing and broke it up really good, and just seasoned it with some nice salt and pepper. And then I threw in about, I would say, 3/4 of a cup to a cup of chopped onion. You want to let this go until your onion is translucent and your beef starts to brown really good. Okay, our onion is translucent now, and our beef is all nice and browned up, and I drained it really well because you don't want that fat in there. Now we are going to add about 12 ounces of either tomato sauce or tomato puree, or I'm using passata. And passata is just an Italian thicker tomato puree, and this bottle is 24.5 ounces, so I'll use about half of it.
I like those bottles though, because you can put the lid back on and put it back in the fridge.
Yeah. But as you can see, his passata is very thick. I'm just eyeballing it basically. And if you're using passata, you may have to add a little more salt. Passata is a little sweeter than most just regular tomato sauces or whatever that you would get in the store. Passata is a little bit sweeter. So it looks like to me that it needs a little bit more passata.
It's a little dry, yeah.
But not a whole lot.
So this is basically Greek lasagna, right?
Yeah. Essentially, that's kind of what it's like.
What people call it, I think, right?
Yeah. To this, we are going to add 1/3 of a cup of beef broth. And that'll help loosen it up and help it to cook better in the simmer time. Now this next ingredient, if you are not used to Greek food or you are not used to Mediterranean food, it may sound a little odd, but you will find this in a lot of Mediterranean cooking.
It's good though, trust me.
In a lot of Mediterranean cooking, they use cinnamon in their meat sauce. And you will find that in Greek food, you will find that in Turkish food. Any Mediterranean type food, you will find that. So I'm putting in 1/8 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. It's very little, and you don't taste it a ton.
No, it ain't like you're eating cinnamon rolls over here, folks.
But it adds such an amazing flavor.
Just a little spice.
It adds such an amazing warmth. They use it a lot in Greek food, in meat sauces, and places that you wouldn't think that it would go good in. In Turkish food, they use it a lot in their sausages and things like that. They use it in places you wouldn't think.
So Mediterranean food though is mostly what? Turkey, Greece, Israel.
Israel's kind of a cross between Middle Eastern and Mediterranean.
Lebanese.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you want to bring this up to a bubble. And once it's up to a bubble, you want to reduce it down to a nice simmer. And see, I've already turned mine down. Mine's down to a nice simmer. And you want to let this simmer for about 1/2 hour. Now during that 1/2 hour, you have a good window of time to go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees and to get a pot of water coming up to a boil for your pasta. And during the time when this is simmering, you want to occasionally come stir it. It doesn't need a lot of stirring, just occasionally. Okay, once your water is pretty much at a boil, you want to salt it really good. I've already done that. And you want to add in 12 ounces of, I'm using penne. You can use penne, you can use ziti. Because the pasta that they use for traditional pastitsio, you cannot find, for the most part, in the United States. So, I use penne because it's the most readily available. So you want to cook that until it's tender, which takes about 8 minutes. Now our meat sauce is done, and as you can see, it gets nice and thick. This is the way you want it. You don't want it saucy. You want it nice and thick. Now it's still very moist. As you can see, there's still a lot of sauce there, but this is the way you want it. You want it nice and thick. Now our pasta is also done. It's still hot. I drained it really well, and it's still hot. Now you want to add 3 tablespoons of salted butter. This will help cool it down for the next steps because you want it to be nice and cool. Now you want to stir that butter in until it's all melted in to your pasta. Now to this, you're going to add 1 cup of milk. And you want to stir that around. It's going to help, like I said, it's going to help cool that pasta down because you want to cool down for the next step. It has to be cooled down nicely for the next step.
Makes sense.
And you can actually feel the temperature. It's actually cooled down a lot. I'm going to add a little pinch of salt. If you salted your pasta water good, then you shouldn't have to add much salt. And
Taste to make sure, right?
Yes.
Just taste to make sure it's where you want it.
add a little bit of pepper. And toss it in. Now you want to add in 3 large eggs that you have beaten really well. You want to be stirring while you pour it in because your pasta is still a little bit warm. It's not screaming hot, so it shouldn't curdle them. But as long as you keep it moving, you should be okay. And now this mixture will be set aside along with the meat mixture. And we will move on to the next step. Okay, now we're going to make our white sauce before we start layering. In this pot, over medium heat, we have 3 tablespoons of salted butter. And you want to let it get nice and melty. And now we're going to add 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour.
So equal parts butter and flour.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then you want to add a good pinch of salt and a good bit of black pepper. I always, you've probably noticed, I always use fresh ground black pepper. You don't have to, but you'll get the best flavor that way. Now you want to mix that up. You can use a whisk, or I'm using my little half moon because that gets into the corners better. This is just making a roux. Now you want to let that cook just for about a minute so that the raw flour taste will cook out of it. Okay, now you have a cup and 3/4 of milk, and you want to slowly add it. You want to add a little and whisk it because you don't want a lumpy sauce, and this is the way to keep from getting a lumpy white sauce. You just add a little bit, stir it in until it's nice and smooth. And see, he'll start to get lumpy on you again. But see, it's starting to get nice and smooth. Now you want to add more. You want to add your milk in probably about 5 to 6 increments. That way you know you're going to make your sauce nice and smooth because you do not want a lumpy white sauce for this. You want it to be nice and smooth. Now we're going to add just a little bit more. And I'm going to keep adding and stirring until it's all gone and nice and smooth. Now all the milk's in and it's nice and smooth, as you can tell, but it's very liquidy right now. So you want to let this cook over medium heat until it starts to heat up and starts to get nice and thick. And then I'll show you what you do next. Now in this bowl we have 2 large eggs that have been beaten up a little bit. Now we are going to start tempering in some of our bechamel. Because right now it's a bechamel. It becomes a white sauce as you do this. Now you want to be whisking as you add this, because you don't want to curdle your eggs. And that's a good amount. Now you want to keep whisking, because you don't want to curdle your eggs. You don't want scrambled eggs in this. You want a nice, rich white sauce. Now we're going to add it back. Now we're going to add it slowly back to our white sauce, stirring it vigorously as you slowly pour it in. Now you want to keep that moving over medium heat until you get that egg mixture thoroughly mixed in. Now I'm going ahead and cutting off my heat because we're pretty much there.
And that pot holds heat too.
And your eggs are nice and cooked now. So now you want to taste it for salt and pepper. Make sure that it's nice and seasoned. Now here we have a 13 by 9 glass baking dish, and I've sprayed it really good. Now you want to take half of your pasta mixture. Make sure you get some of that liquid in there, because it's going to cause it to set up. Now you want a good half of your pasta. It's going to look pretty thin. Don't worry about it.
That's good.
There you go. You're going to start spooning over your meat sauce. Some of it may mix in a little bit with your pasta mixture. That's fine.
It's all going down the same gullet.
But you want to put on your whole meat sauce mixture.
So every single bit of it right now?
Every bit of it right now. Because your white sauce is going to go on top of the next layer.
I see. So while it's like a lasagna, it's not like super multiple layers like lasagna.
No.
I got you.
No. It's just a few layers.
I see.
A few layers of deliciousness.
See, I've always ate this, but I never really know.
You've never been in here when I've done it.
Never watched you put it together.
It's an intricate thing, but it's worth every minute that you spend on doing it. Especially if you love Mediterranean flavors as much as I do. Now, to this, once again, just like with the noodles, you can't find traditional Greek cheese that often around here. So the cheese that you would use here is a very sharp Parmesan-y type cheese, but it's way sharper than Parmesan. So I'm using Pecorino Romano because you want something nice and sharp. If you're not into sharp cheeses, you can use Parmesan, but it won't have near the amount of flavor. So you want to put a good layer of your Pecorino Romano or Parmesan, whichever you're using. And now you want to go in with your next layer of pasta with all of that juice. You want to spread it around. Like I said, it's not going to be a thick layer. It's not like lasagna in that way. It's just a layer, because this whole thing is going to set up. That's why you did all these eggs and all this. The whole thing's going to set up. That's the reason you didn't want your meat sauce to be all soupy and everything like you do with lasagna, because it's going to set up in a solid mass.
I always forget, because you don't make it so often, so I always forget exactly what it's like when you're...
Yes. Now you're going to add a good layer again of your Pecorino or Parmesan.
Your cheese of choice.
I would personally prefer Pecorino in this. It's sharper. Now we've got our beautiful white sauce with our eggs. And you want to put on a nice layer of that. Now you'll spread it around a little to make sure that you got full coverage over it, because you have enough white sauce here to cover the whole thing. And this sauce is so rich because of those eggs. It's so rich. And you don't want to skip that step and leave out the eggs. I know it may seem intimidating to have to temper the eggs in and stuff. It's not as hard as it looks. It's actually very easy to temper eggs in. And You don't want to skip that step because it's not going to have the same flavor. It's not going to set up the same. It's not going to be as rich. So you don't want to skip that step just because you may be a little afraid. Don't be afraid of it. It's easy.
Although I will tell you, I was impressed by the cooking skills too. I was impressed by watching you do that. It was impressive.
Now you've got a nice layer. And by the way, thank you, Jason. Now you've got a nice layer of your sauce. Now you're going to go back in with more of your pecorino. Nice layer of your pecorino. I bought this pecorino specifically for this, so I'm going to use a lot, which honestly is probably about 1.25 cups total between all 3 layers that you add of the pecorino. And now you want to cover this. You can, if you don't like foil touching your food, you can do parchment and then foil. Or if you don't mind the foil, just go ahead and put foil on it. Put it in a 350-degree preheated oven for about 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, take your wrap off and let it go for about 10 to 15 minutes until it's set up enough that it's not jiggling, it's not moving around, and you can actually stick a knife in the middle of it and it will come out clean. Okay, this beautifulness is out of the oven. As I said, it baked for 20 minutes covered. It baked for 10 minutes uncovered. You may have to do 10 to 15 until I inserted a knife in the center and the knife come out clean. Now you want to let this rest, just like you would a lasagna. You want to let this rest for about 10 to 15 minutes to let it finish setting up, and basically so that it will fully set up and so that it will cool down some.
Look at that beautiful bite. Man, I'm excited about it. Angela, okay. So good. A very complex blend of flavors. It's nothing like you've ever tasted before. It's so amazing. It's honestly a joy to eat because it's so unique, but so homey and delicious and rich and flavorful. In America, you don't realize food can taste like that you're allowed to do what you did there, because it's not American. And Angela made a good version of something you're not going to find in America very often. Pastitsio is such a delicious flavor, and honestly, you gotta try it. She made it look. She did an awesome job with it. So if you're curious about trying something a little different but still full of flavor and deliciousness, try this right here. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it. My name is Jason. That's a smart one and talented one. Her name is Angela K. This is Art of Creation Homestead. We love y'all. God bless you and goodbye.